Try HelloFresh UK to get 60% off your first box, 25% off for 2 months, and to of course help support this channel. Link is down in the description. Thank you for your support. Well, hello and welcome along to Matchday 15 Premier League predictions from the Honest Football Podcast, as today we look ahead to the big game on Tuesday night between Luton versus Arsenal, live on Amazon Prime. And we also have a look ahead to the full midweek fixture list, predicting our scores and telling you the reasons why. As always, we'll look at the Luton game first in a bit more depth, but before that, I'll encourage you, as always, to get involved in the comments. Let me know your score predictions for Matchday 15, the first full midweek fixture list in the Premier League this season, and if you beat or match my score, as always, you'll get a shout out in the next recap, and that one will be on Friday, ahead of the weekend's fixtures. But for now, we're going to look ahead to a big game at Kenilworth Road under the lights. It is Luton Town versus Arsenal. And to do that, we've got to have a look back at a game both sides played at the weekend. So we'll start with Luton Town. It was 2 of the 3 PM kickoffs on Saturday. Luton played away at Brentford, and it was a bit of a frustrating day. To be honest, the result isn't the main problem out of the day. It is the continued problems with injuries at centre-half, which is becoming a huge concern for us at Luton Town, because Ted and Mengi and Tom Lockyer both came off with injuries, and the Lockyer one at half-time proved to be crucial. Whilst Brentford dominated the game, it was largely attack v defence in the first half. Luton looked relatively comfortable for the most part defensively, dealt with balls in the box well, and Lockyer, that probably is his bread and butter as a defender. Very well positioned in the area, attacks the ball well, and dealt with Brentford's threat quite comfortably. However, after he went off and we were forced to put Bell back in at centre-half and move people across, it did become a bit of a struggle, and 2 quick goals, again, just changed the game. Then the disappointment of Ted and Mengi being lost to injury later as well, because we are really running out of centre-halves now. And with 4 or 5 out injured, it's going to be a very difficult midweek if we haven't got any back. Add to that the only one remaining there, Osho and Amari Bell, they're the 2 that have just come back from injuries, and in Osho's case, a long-term one. So playing him 3 games a week is hardly ideal at this point. We have got to praise the spirit though, because Luton again, and we've said it all season, they stayed in the game. They didn't get blown away. They didn't risk losing a 4, 5, 6-0, as again we saw with one of the other sides down there. They stayed in there, they stayed competitive, and even got that goal back via Jacob Brown, who scored 2 in 2 now. And that does give us plenty of optimism moving forward to the midweek, because again, we're keeping that goal difference down, which is going to be important. And with other sides like Bournemouth picking up the odd point as well, we've got to stay in touch in distance. But this week is not going to be an ideal one for Luton. And when you're coming up against Arsenal and City, it is not a time you want a crisis of injuries in defensive players, because in addition to all those defenders, we're still sweating on the fitness of Marvellous Nakamba, the key cog in the wheel defensively from a midfield point of view. And of course, we've also got to bear in mind that people like Barkley and Townsend, whilst doing really well for us so far, have had plenty of injury problems over recent seasons. So if we can avoid playing them 3 games in a week, we're probably going to have to do so. While it sounds pretty defeatist, and by the way, Brentford deserved to win that game. Fair play to them. Good side, doing really well. But the big problem for Luton is that the game after this week, get through the Arsenal, get through the Manchester City. The game the weekend after is away at Bournemouth, which is going to be massive. So I do start to worry that maybe we have to think about rotating. If not for this one, certainly for the City one. But of course, we know this is going to be a difficult task for Luton. What are they coming up against? Well, they're coming up against the league leaders, because after City dropped points again and Arsenal grabbed a 2-1 win against Wolves, it all starts to look pretty hunky-dory for the Gunners, similar to this time last season. A fairly dominant display in the first half. Yes, Wolves made defensive errors, but Arsenal were good. Key players getting involved again. And of course, with the threat of the likes of Saka, Ødegaard, etc., Arsenal are going to be a threat. We know that for sure. It is a worry for me looking at the Luton team at the minute, because Bell probably would have played left wing back if everyone had been fit, or we'd had enough centre-halves fit to give us an extra bit of defensive pace and quality against Saka. Whereas now, whilst Doughty will get forward and give a different problem off the left, it does leave us a little short in the middle. So I'm really worried about seeing our defensive setup against a very good Arsenal team. And you've got to be fair to them having a good season again. They didn't finish the game that well against Wolves, gave a goal away. Obviously had a few little scares towards the end. But overall, it was a comfortable performance, and they're doing really well this season. Without being spectacular in every game, they're efficient and they're picking up results. So I do feel Luton are in for a hard night. I think, in fairness, you'd probably have to be beyond optimistic to be expecting a Luton victory here. But we saw against Liverpool, the Luton can compete against the big sides at home. And under the lights at Kenilworth Road is the best opportunity to do so. So I don't think it's going to be as easy for Arsenal as some are expecting. But with the defensive injuries, I just don't see how we're able to compete unless someone like a Burke, like a Potts, someone just comes out of the woodwork and is back, and Anderson, whoever it may be. I just don't see us being able to field the side in a formation we want. And if we're forced to either change to a 4 at the back or maybe even play Pelly there if he wants to stick with 3, it could be a very difficult afternoon. So I'm a little bit worried about it, but an 8:15 kickoff on a Tuesday night, an unusual one for Luton Town. And I have to go for Arsenal to win it. They look really good. They've been really comfortable this season. And I'm going to go for them to win away from home at Luton by 3-1. Hopefully, we can deal with them from set plays. Hopefully, we can stay in a pretty deep defensive block. But we're going to have to surrender possession. We're going to have to hope for the best. And if Arsenal score 1 or 2 screamers, which they've got players more than capable of doing, it could get ugly pretty quick. But I'm going to go 3-1 and be optimistic that Luton stay in the game. However, there is going to be a hide-in. It could be this week with the defensive injuries and a level of opposition. With that out the way though, let's move on to our matchday 15 predictions for the rest of the Premier League across Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday night. And before we do that, we've got to have a quick recap of the weekend and see how we all got on. Because if we have a look now, I managed to pick up 9 points overall this weekend. 2 perfect scores for Newcastle's 1-0 win and for Chelsea's 3-2 win against Brighton. If I'd stuck with my head rather than my heart and gone for Brentford to win 2-1 against Luton, I would have been in double figures. But compared to most of the comment section, I've had a pretty good weekend because I've finished in 2nd place overall with 9 points. A lot of people picked up 8, so well done to all of you. But one person has managed to pit me to the post, and it was courtesy of that 1-1 draw between West Ham and Palace. So Kieran West picks up 12 points overall. That perfect score was literally the difference between us. So well done to you. You win matchday 14. But will you do the same in midweek? Let's go and have a look at what I've picked for matchday 15 overall. And these are the scores I've gone for. I've gone for Wolves to pit Burnley at home by 2-1. Wolves have been competitive and strong this season. It's just about the goal scoring threat. Hopefully VAR won't decide to take umbrage with them again. So I'm going to go for Wolves 2-1, which would be crucial for Luton. You know I've gone for Luton to lose 3-1 at home to Arsenal in the other Tuesday night game. For the rest of midweek though, I've gone for Brighton to pit Brentford, despite the fact that Brentford picked up a win and a draw in these fixtures last year. Brentford looked good against Luton, and it's going to be an interesting clash of styles, but I just fancy Brighton to pip it this time. Palace v Bournemouth, I can't see many goals. I'm going to go for Palace to nick it by 1-0. Fulham versus Forest, much the same. I think it'll be a tight and cagey game without much inspiration. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw there. Throw in a Championship's favourite scoreline from a couple of years ago when both sides were in the division. Sheffield United v Liverpool. Look, there's every chance it could be wrong because the Premier League throws up surprises. But as it stands at the moment, you can't go for anything other than a big Liverpool win. What the score will be, I don't know. I still feel they're a little vulnerable defensively. But I'm going to go comfortable by 4-1 for the visitors. Villa v City is an interesting one. Jack Grealish will not be playing his former club. And most importantly, perhaps, Rodri is suspended as well after picking up his 5th booking. They weren't great against Spurs defensively. And you know what? With Villa's unbelievable home record, that run of wins, I just see it stretching. I certainly don't see Villa losing the game, despite a pretty average performance at Bournemouth. I'm going to go for Villa to nick it 2-1, purely because of that narrow formation they play and the fact that Rodri isn't available. So for that reason, Villa to nick it. For United v Chelsea, I feel we're going to see a very flipped game here. I feel we're going to see United playing like an away side on the counter because we know Chelsea struggle to break teams down. United can't afford to defend high against this Chelsea attacking line. And while they have looked good in spells under Pochettino, they've struggled in the same types of games every time. They also struggle defensively on the counter-attack. So as a result of that, United to win by 2-0. I know, a big surprise. Everton v Newcastle was tough. I wanted to go 1-1. Newcastle not got many players available. Everton got a big win away at Nottingham Forest. I'm going to go for Newcastle to pip it. I've just got a feeling on the counter that Everton's defence will struggle a little. And in the final game, any Tottenham game could be any score at the minute. I think without centre-halves fit, they're going to be very susceptible to the set piece and quite possibly to the counter-attack through the middle as well. But West Ham have not been in brilliant form themselves this season, and Spurs look great going forward. So as a result, we're going to get a classic London derby, and Spurs are going to nick it by 3-2. But those are just my predictions for matchday 15 and for the Luton Arsenal game, of course. Do you agree or disagree with me? Let me know in the comments section down below. Give me your predictions for all of the midweek fixtures. If you do beat or match my score, you'll get a shout out on Friday in a recap for the next episode, which will look ahead to the weekend and matchday 16. But in between now and then, we'll be back with our weekend championship predictions on Thursday. I would imagine a Rotherham manager special early next week, which may feature a certain Nathan Jones, a subject we know a bit about. But in the meantime, if you did enjoy this one, please do put a thumbs up on the video. Don't forget to check out all our other stuff up in the eye above. Subscribe and turn that notification bell on to make sure you don't miss a thing. And I'll see you back here later in the week as we look ahead to Luton v City, as well as next weekend's fixtures in the Championship.